thank you for joining me here at Why the Book Wins. My name is Laura, and today is my July monthly reading wrap-up. I read 7 books, and so I will be talking about them in order from the book I liked the least to the book I liked the best. And at the end, this month's best book will go head-to-head with my current 2022 champion, which right now is Sometimes a Great Notion by Ken Kesey. So we will find out if this month's best book was even better than Sometimes a Great Notion. And let's just get right to it. The worst book I read this month was The Godfather by Mario Puzo. And to be totally honest, I only got 70%-ish, 75, 70, somewhere around there. Like 3/4 of the way through this book when I just had to stop because I just couldn't take it anymore. And yes, the Corleone family parts with the mafia drama and the family, all of that was really good. However, I wasn't able to even appreciate that until after the fact because as I was reading it, it was just such an offensive, uncomfortable, gross book with how misogynistic it was. And it got to the point where I just couldn't take it and I had to stop reading it. But I will be doing a book first movie for that / book rant review. So if you want to hear me talk even more about my issues with this book while also comparing it to the movie, my book first movie for this will actually be out the first Wednesday in September. I had to record that one way far in advance for, whatever reasons. I've already recorded it, but it won't be out till September. So stay tuned and you can hear me talk about even more the reasons I did not like this book. I love the movie, but book had a lot of issues. Anyway, so that is number 7 on my list. Number 6 is Mischief by Charlotte Armstrong. And this is about a family who hire a babysitter for the night because their original babysitter canceled, so they hire a new babysitter who is a stranger and they never met her. Turns out this woman, Nell is her name, has just a lot of baggage and, they changed her from book to movie. In the movie, she's played by Marilyn Monroe, which is why I chose to read this one because I wanted to do a Marilyn Monroe movie in preparation for Blonde. Anyway, this one again won't be out till September, but yeah, so they changed her character from book to movie. But in the book, she turns out to be a very unstable person and kind of messed up. And this is in a hotel room, and this guy across the hall becomes entangled in her drama for the night. And yeah, it was an interesting book and I enjoyed it, but because it was like a thriller, it wasn't a slow burn, but it also wasn't a page turner. And so I wish it had been either more of a page turner or had more of a slow burn feel, because it was just somewhere in between where I was interested, but it's not like I was like, oh, I can't wait. And then it didn't have that slow burn aspect where you can feel the tension rising. And then at the end, it's just like, wow, that happened. So yeah, I enjoyed it and it was very short, but it did seem like there was something missing there. But yeah, if you want a quick suspense thriller, this was a fun one. Next up is The Gray Man, which I will link to my book first movie for this one. This one, honestly, the only reason I read it was because the cast of the movie was awesome. It's Chris Evans, Ryan Gosling, and Ana de Armas. So I saw the 3 of them and I was sold. So I wanted to do a book first movie for it. And I definitely liked the movie better, which if people have read the book, they will be upset at me saying that because, I'm sure it's a series. And so I'm sure as the series goes on, maybe I would like it better. But based on that first book alone, I just wasn't invested in Court Gentry / The Gray Man / Sierra 6 is what he's called in the movie. And yeah, it was just kind of cliche and predictable. And I mean, it was entertaining and it was fast paced. And there were moments where I was like, ooh, that was cool. But it's just not my kind of book, action books like that. Which I have another action book later in this video, but this particular action book, there wasn't much depth to it, I guess was my problem. And so the characters just felt very predictable. And it wasn't anything groundbreaking by any means. And it was just kind of following the formula. And yeah, so it was entertaining, but I have no interest in reading the following books for this one. And then we have Born by Jeff Vandermeer, which I do own this one. And I want to show you the copy, which I could just show an image. But I'm going to get the physical book because the cover is super cool. So this is Born by Jeff Vandermeer. He always has such cool book covers. So anyway, I love Jeff Vandermeer. I've read his Southern Reach trilogy and the Ambergris trilogy. And so based on those 2 books, which that's 6 books in total because both of them are trilogies, those books are just so bizarre and so unexpected, and you're just reading things you have never read before. And it's just very visceral and it's just so engaging. And yeah, And so that's what I expect when I go into a Jeff Vandermeer book at this point, and just really unsettling too at times. But I didn't really get that from Born. So I enjoyed it and I would still recommend it. And I feel like this is probably his more like digestible book out of all of the books that I've read, because this one I think could appeal to just more of a general audience, because it had kind of like a YA dystopian feel to it, which I read the book Cinder, which I didn't really like, but that's a YA dystopian novel. And for some reason, like the storylines are totally different, but I don't know, for some reason I was thinking of Cinder as I read this book. I do think Born is better than Cinder, but anyway. Yeah, I enjoyed Born the character, and I liked the relationship he had with Rachel, and so I did enjoy it. It just wasn't, and there were some weird things in it. It just wasn't as weird and unsettling and bizarre as I wanted from a Jeff Vandermeer book, I guess is my problem. But I still really liked it, and I'll be reading the following book, Dead Astronauts, and then there's another like novella, Strange Bird. So I plan on reading those two in August, and I'm really excited to get to them. But yeah, so I enjoyed Born. It wasn't what I had expected. And I actually started reading it last year, and then I DNF'd it. And so I came back to it this time around, and I enjoyed it more than I did then, because I think I knew what to expect. And so I liked it better, whereas last year it just wasn't what I was wanting. Next up is About a Boy by Nick Hornby. And this one was great for what I was wanting. It is very funny. It is a feel-good book, and that is what I was wanting, just something, yeah, like a feel-good, funny book. And there are parts that made me chuckle out loud, like it is genuinely funny. And I loved the characters, and he talks about some difficult subjects, but he doesn't do it in a heavy way. But he also doesn't talk about it in a disrespectful way either. Like, he's really good at that balance, you know, which in that way it kind of reminded me of Silver Linings Playbook, because that does the same, where it talks about these serious things, but it's not a heavy book. So I do like when books can do that. And yeah, I love the characters, and I just loved the story. So definitely would recommend this one if you want a funny, feel-good book. And then number 2 on the list is Dr. Sleep by Stephen King, which, by the way, I'm like just whipping through these, keeping it pretty short, but sometimes it's nice to just keep it short. Anyway, Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. This is the sequel to The Shining, and I went into this with some hesitation, but turns out like it was actually really good. And I was very impressed, and I enjoyed like the plot itself with what's going on with them, you know, fighting off the True Knot and everything. I really enjoy that aspect. I didn't give it 5 stars. I give it 4 stars because there is something to do with the plot that I didn't love, but to get into detail about that would be a spoiler. So if you want to hear more details about this, I do have a book versus movie which was released recently, so you can check that out. But yeah, overall, I really did love this book. I love the character of Danny and seeing his journey after the Overlook. I love the AA representation in this book. And yeah, it was just so much better than I thought it would be, and I would definitely recommend it. And it is definitely like a standalone book too, even though it's technically a sequel. You don't have to have read The Shining to really enjoy this book, because yeah, he gives you all the background info you need. And yeah, so it's a good standalone book as well, basically is what I'm saying. And now to my number 1 book of the month, which I am so excited to talk about, and that is Bullet Train by Kotaro Isaka, and he's a Japanese author. This book was originally published in 2010 under the title Marie Beetle, and it was like Japanese only. But in 2021, they released an English translation, retitled it Bullet Train, in preparation for the movie, which is coming out very soon. My book first movie for it will be next week. So excited for the movie. But this book was so fantastic, which I talked about The Gray Man being an action movie, and this one has action too, but it's different. It's like a dark action comedy, but it also has a lot of heart to it. And yeah, the characters, there's a lot of characters, but you never get them mixed up because they are all so unique. And the dialogue is just witty and funny and thought-provoking, and it's entertaining. And the action scenes that they do have are so well written, and it's exciting. And then there are just so many things that happen within the story that I was not expecting. So there's just like interesting plot twists throughout the book where you're just like, whoa, taken by surprise, time and time again. And yeah, like I said, there's also just parts that are just so heartwarming. Heartwarming. And yeah, like this book just had everything. I cannot say enough good things about this. I do think that it's one that I don't see everybody giving 5 stars. Like I said, I think if you're into dark action comedies, then you should check this one out. But like I said, there's also just great character development, and yeah, it was just perfect. Which I say that, but I know there's people, like there is different things within the plot that I thought of which I'm actually reading it a second time. Like as soon as I finished the book, I started it again the next day. That's how much I loved it. I just wanted to read it all over again because it was just such a joy to read. But anyway, there are certain things, maybe on my second time around, I'll think differently, but there's certain things where I'm just like, like what about this or what about that? But even so, like I honestly just don't even care because I just had such a good time with this book, and I'm in it the second time. I'm like halfway through, maybe less than halfway through, and I'm enjoying it still my second time around, and I'm picking up on things that I had not noticed my first time around. And when you know the story, you're able to notice things that you hadn't noticed the first time. Anyway, this book is fantastic. So now we get to the question of, is this book better than Sometimes a Great Notion by Ken Kesey? And this is tough. I finished this book the first time less than a week ago. It's been a few days. And yeah, I've been thinking like, does this win over Sometimes a Great Notion? And it is tough because objectively, Sometimes a Great Notion is the better written book for sure. Like the way he wrote it is just, it's so well done and it's so unique, and it actually is like, I wouldn't call it groundbreaking. I don't know if he was the first to write a book in the style that he did, so I don't know if it's groundbreaking, but it is just technically just so well written. And he does have great characters, and the plot is one I really enjoyed, and it's very memorable, and I was engaged the whole time. But then when it comes down to it though, I just had so much more fun reading Bullet Train. And it did have great characters, and it did have thought-provoking sections, and it had parts that just like warmed your heart, and it had parts that were funny, which Sometimes a Great Notion was funny too. So they were like different kinds of humor though, but both of them, I enjoyed both kinds of humor. So yeah, man, this one, it is really tough to say. Sometimes a Great Notion was another one where after I finished it, part of me wanted to reread it, but it's like 650 pages for one. And so that's, one reason why I didn't reread it. Whereas Bullet Train, let me check actually how many pages Bullet Train is. So it's 415 pages. So it's still, it's not like it's a 200-page book or something, but yeah, so Bullet Train is one that I am rereading. So I feel like that almost says something right there. The fact that I chose to like literally just go back the next day and start over because I just loved it so much and just wanted to be in that world even longer, and I wanted to read it again to, now that I knew some of the reveals that happened, I wanted to read it again so that I could pick up on different things that are said and different clues that are given. And there was one character in particular, I was like wanting to know what their deal was. But anyway, so yeah, I want to just say the Bullet Train because like I said, I just had such a good time reading this book. It got me a little emotional near the end too, partly because I did love the ending and it was just one of those like, oh, but also because just when you come to the end of a fantastic book, like it is kind of an emotional experience, right? Even if the book isn't this huge tearjerker, when you finish like a glowing 5-star book, it's a special experience. But yeah, and it just fits my sensibilities as well. Like I said, it's one where other people might not love it quite so much, but it is just like my style of story. So if you want to know me and like just like really what like hits the spot for me, I feel like Bullet Train is the one that really does it more so than Sometimes a Great Notion, even though Sometimes a Great Notion is so well written and it's a fantastic book with great characters, like I said. Which, by the way, if you want to watch my book first movie for Sometimes a Great Notion, I will link to that. But yeah, ultimately, I'm going to go with Bullet Train. Sometimes a Great Notion was only #1 for 1 month. Prior to that, The Power of the Dog had been #1 for like 6 months. So Sometimes a Great Notion had won for July, but it is now dethroned. And I am saying Bullet Train is now my new 2022 favorite book of the year, which The Power of the Dog is fantastic too. And that one also has some humor in it, while also just being a great story. And yeah, Power of the Dog is definitely one you should read. But yeah, Bullet Train, it's my new favorite. You guys should definitely read it. It is so, so good. I am so curious to see the movie and I'm excited for it, but I'm also scared because I love the book so much, like what are they going to change? What are they going to do to these characters? So we will see. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, to like this video, comment down below if you have read any of these books. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.